Chilcott did say, and he said it in his speech summarising the thing, was that actually the war was unnecessary. That even if you thought at some point there might be a case for going to war with Iraq, that case had not been made on the 18th of March 2003, and that the weapons inspectors needed more time, all of those different sorts of things. So I think if you add it up, there's lots and lots of reason to think this. Now, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't, as I understand it, lots of people say it's difficult to go to the ICC, although we're in a ludicrous situation now where individual British soldiers can be prosecuted at the ICC if there's any evidence of war crimes, but the politicians who took them into war and the top brass in the military can't be, and that seems to me a sort of a basic injustice, really. But I know the families are looking at the possibility of some legal case, and I would very much support anything that they can do. But I think what's important is whether or not you can get a legal outcome. Shouldn't there be some other outcome? I mean, should he really be volunteering to negotiate Brexit, as he did a couple of weeks ago, or saying that he wants to...
So you want to see him barred from any political activity?
I think so. I think the very minimum. I think the very minimum, he should not be able to hold public office. And that is something... If you're a councillor or a mayor and you overspend or in any other way do anything which is far, far smaller misdemeanour or crime than what happened over Iraq, you can be barred from office. You could actually have to pay money in compensation for these sorts of things. Surely we should be investigating some of these things, because we know that Blair has a tidy pile and property portfolio.
You want some of that whittled off?
Well, I think it might be a nice compensation for the Iraqis at some stage.
But perhaps to the tens of thousands of Iraqis whose families have lost lives.
Who've lost loved ones.
Yeah. So you talking about the fallout from the Iraq War, the tens of thousands who've lost lives, the complete mess that few people will not be prepared to concede is now the state of affairs across the Middle East as a consequence. You do slam Ian Austin MP, or at least the Stop the War have publicly, for suggesting that the war and invasion of Iraq had nothing to do with the rise of ISIS. Do you think he has any value in that judgment?
I don't really have. I don't really know what he is basing this on. If you look at where ISIS came from, it came from 2007 in British-occupied Iraq. That's where it started. It came out of Al Qaeda. Al Qaeda didn't exist in 2003. So yes, there is a connection. What he does in his speech to Parliament is he quotes an answer from a Guardian journalist about no, ISIS was going to be in Syria anyway. It had nothing to do with Iraq. With respect, that doesn't answer. That's not the question, and it's not the answer.
Yeah. Now, Corbyn supporters, including high-profile members of Stop the War, have been accused of being like a cult while worshipping at the altar of their great leader. Is it not fair, as much as the media seems to suggest, to say that Jeremy Corbyn's position is untenable with his lack of backing from the parliamentary party? Is it fair to describe attempts to force his resignation, on the other hand, as an attempted Blairite coup?
Well, the way I see it is that there is this huge division between Jeremy and a large part of the parliamentary party. The PLP haven't got over the fact that he got elected on a very large and a very clear mandate, and it wasn't that he pretended he was something that he wasn't, and he now has revealed himself as anti-war and anti-austerity and all those sorts of things. I think he very much connects with a large section of Labour membership and potential Labour voters, lots of young people. Also, I know many, many people who left Labour under Blair, particularly over the Iraq War, who've now rejoined and who've done so because of Jeremy Corbyn. Now, it seems to me that this threatens the Blairite MPs in particular, who really don't agree with any of the politics that Jeremy is putting forward, and are much to the right of most of the Labour membership and indeed the Labour voters, if you look at the things that motivate people to vote. So, and they always sort of focus on the floating voters, because these are the people who sometimes vote Tory and sometimes vote Labour, because these are the people actually in reality closest to them politically. But that isn't where most Labour people are. So I think we're heading for, well, we are in the middle of some very, very big clashes here, and I just don't think it's right that they have. I think it's a great shame that they've challenged him as leader after 9 months, when at a time when the Tories were in a complete mess and would have been in a greater mess. One reason that Theresa May, I think, was anointed last week was because the Tories came together just after the announcement that there would be a leadership challenge to Jeremy, and I don't think that that's unconnected. So the Labour MPs who should be attacking the Tories for all sorts of things aren't doing that at all. They're attacking their own leader. I don't think people regard him as a cult-like figure. I certainly don't. I think he's like all of us, that he has strengths and weaknesses, and I agree with much of what he says. That doesn't mean that anybody is totally uncritical of him or totally just suspends all criticism just because of who he is. But I think he should get some credit for making Labour a popular party again.
But how do you see this working? You've got a vast majority of elected MPs saying they cannot support him, vote of no confidence. He cannot even muster enough to put together a cabinet. You've got a media which is very cynical about his prospect of staying in power. Are we at a crossroads? Is the Labour Party about to collapse totally? Will there be a split? Is there a new dynamic in the political scene in Britain?
You see, if you look at Labour historically, Labour has always been an amalgam of right and left, and the same with the Conservatives in a way. What's happened, in a sense, is with the British political system, that first past the post, in other words, that winner takes all the elections, has led us to this state, really, that you have within the Labour Party people with very, very different aims and objectives, both in the same party. Now, in that situation, as long as the left kept quiet and was subservient to the right, everything was OK. I mean, Tony Blair didn't consult the left about what was happening. Now it's the other way round. That is causing far more tension because these people have a huge sense of entitlement. Now, I think that if Jeremy wins again, and obviously it has to be a fair election, I think it's very unfortunate they've suspended all the Labour parties. They've prevented, more than 100,000 members from voting who joined in the last 6 or 7 months.
That's been challenged, isn't it?
I think it's been challenged. I hope it is challenged, and I think the NEC should really think again about that.
And they put a price of £20
and £25. You know, for most people, to buy a vote for £25 is a lot of money.
Whereas it's much easier to buy it for £3.
Well, £3 is something that young people will sign up to. Now, they have encouraged young people to become full members, and that's obviously something for the Labour Party. But I do think that there has to be a democratic contest. And if Jeremy wins again, then the MPs have to accept that and have to work with him.
And does that mean that they have to resign? Because that's what's being suggested, that there should be an open mandate for removal of MPs who are not supporting that mandate.
Well, there will be a process over the next year or two where lots of local constituencies will challenge their MPs and will say, we're not satisfied, you're not reflecting our wishes. And I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do in the circumstances. I think it's perfectly fair enough. But there's also talk that the right wing will split away and form a new party with Lib Dems.
So do you think we're looking forward to a very exciting new dawn in British politics, on the left especially?
I think in the last few weeks, every day, you know, some other great event, not just in Britain, but obviously Britain is in the middle of a political turmoil, but all sorts of things that are going on around the world. You feel that every day, you know, there's weeks in which decades happen, really, and there's so many things going on, so many questions. The referendum has obviously thrown British politics up in the air, and nobody quite knows where that's going to land. So yes, I think we're in a very interesting situation.
On that note, Lyndsey German, founding member and convener of the Stop the War Coalition, thank you so much for joining me on Islam Channel.